Hi, I'm Virginie O'Shea, founder of Firebrand Research. I'm here to give you a 5-minute guide to everything to do with API strategies in securities markets. Why is everyone suddenly talking about APIs? Well, it's a good question. APIs are nothing new. In fact, we've been talking about them and using them for many years in capital markets. Essentially, an API allows you to connect one application to another, or to access data from one system and feed it into another. So it's a connectivity point between different systems. If you want to think about it, one way to look at it is a blueprint for how different software components should interact. So it gives you all the protocols and communication specifics that you need to do to interact. And as I said, we've been using APIs for years and years to connect our systems and pass data from one part of the firm to another. So it's all about internal connectivity. Another way to think about APIs, a good analogy that's often used, is a waiter delivering a menu item. So a waiter will come, take your order from the menu. This is our API here. Then he heads off to the kitchen to deliver your request to the system that you're trying to access, and comes back with the data that you ordered. Why the big fuss now then? There's been a lot of discussion over recent years about APIs, and there are different types of APIs that different financial institutions will be using. One thing that many people are talking about, and this has started out in the retail banking and bled into the commercial banking and now into the rest of the capital markets, is the API economy. But what does that exactly mean? So as more firms focus on data services and trying to improve the client experience, the user experience, the notion of connecting different data sets and applications becomes more important. Now, connectivity and interoperability have been a challenge for capital markets over the years. We have a lot of proprietary technology out there, especially if you're a tier 1 firm. You may have incompatible systems internally as well as externally. So a lack of common data standards can also prove problematic, because not everybody is using the same taxonomies for data. So no one provider can do everything, so APIs can actually act as a bridge between providers for seamless connectivity to different services, to different data sets for end clients. Now that, as I say, can be internal and it can also be external. Another good analogy that can be used within the context of APIs is an API hotel. Now I can't take credit for this. One of my contacts actually came up with it, and I think it's a very, very good analogy for how people are building platforms for APIs. So in order to enable connectivity to a firm's systems or a single platform, first you need to provide a place for APIs to be built and maintained by developers. So in these areas, developers can build APIs, they can test them in this environment, they use the protocols, routines and tools that are specified by the platform provider to build these various APIs to connect into. Once they've been built, you also need to think about maintenance. They'll need to be maintained and altered any time the platform or service to which they are connected is updated. So you can't just build an API and leave it there. This is one important thing, and that's one maturity assessment, I guess, that you'll have to think about when you're building such a platform. Who's leading the charge out there in terms of developing APIs? Well, there are quite a few different providers in the market that have been focused on this. Now, you've got some of the largest asset managers in the world certainly have made some inroads into looking at APIs. A lot of them are focused internally at the moment rather than externally, but I imagine a lot of the service providers will be looking externally. Technology vendors obviously are trying to connect to their clients. They want to provide as many data services to their clients as possible. Same with data vendors. So some of them are providing platforms to be aggregators for areas where there's a lot of bespoke data, for example, ESG data. Now, similarly, investment banks, custodians and brokers are also working in this space to develop such platforms. They're all at varying degrees of maturity in terms of their approach. And what am I trying to do? Well, one of my goals, as is always the case, is assessing how mature your firm's approach is. So I've been working with the industry to put together a digital maturity spectrum. Now remember, blue is the most positive and hottest flame. So in terms of maturity, we start at the incipient level, we move up to trailblazer. So I've designed a survey to help get an instant assessment of your firm's place on the spectrum with regards to API strategy maturity. So please do visit the website and take the maturity assessment, and you'll get a score back on this 5-point scale here. And where do you go to take the test? Well, here's the address for you, www.fintechfirebrand.com. And if you want to drop me a line, you can reach me on contact@fintechfirebrand.com also. I'm ready and willing to listen.